Stop the world. Stop the world, I want to get off. Have you ever thought that, said that, felt that? It just gets too much for us sometimes. But as we have already thought about, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." Jesus is speaking to the deepest needs and longings of our hearts. He speaks to our need for rest, which is in such short supply in today's world. He speaks to our need for purpose, for useful work rather than meaningless drudgery. He speaks to our need for companionship, for a person who is gentle and understanding, but is also strong and firm. These are some of the things we really most need in our lives. And all of it, as Scott highlighted for us earlier, all of it speaks about our need for Sabbath. But sometimes that word can sound terribly negative, terribly legalistic. I grew up with a set of strict rules about what you must and mustn't do on a Sunday. You had to go to church, and if you were a real Christian, that would mean 2 or 3 times on a Sunday. You weren't allowed to do any work. You weren't allowed to have fun. You weren't allowed to go shopping, but the shops were all shut anyway. It felt like the restrictions that the Pharisees attacked Jesus for breaking. And today we've moved away from all that. We're reminded that the Christian Sunday is not the same thing as the Jewish Sabbath. And we've moved away from it. But have we gone too far? Have we thrown the baby out with the bathwater? Have we lost something that is precious and life-giving? If we've lost it, or if we're just kind of clinging on to it a bit half-heartedly, we need to get it back. And that's not just about what you do or don't do on a Sunday. It's not just a day which has different rules, or a day that's got nothing to do with the rest of the week. It's a day that fits in to the whole week, that feeds our week, that gives us rest for the week, and that really the whole week can revolve around. So that's how I want to think about it. If you ever thought that Sabbath was a burden, then look at the alternative. The 6-day-a-week world that for too many people becomes the 7-day-a-week world. The pace is too fast, the pressure is too much, and a lot of this is pressure that comes from an unsatisfied desire for more. In every human heart, there is a desire for more, which is not satisfied. And it is fed by constant advertising that says, you need that. Whatever it is, if you haven't got it, you need it. And if you have got it, you need a newer and bigger and better one. Why do you need it? Why do you need it? Better not stop and ask, because we might find that the reasons are hollow. You work longer hours to pay off the debt that you have incurred from buying things that you don't need and can't afford to impress people that you don't like. Or perhaps it's just to feed the hunger in yourself. And we do have a hunger in ourselves. Maybe you're not like that. But we live in a world where people constantly strive for more and more of whatever they think will satisfy them, only to find that they are less and less satisfied. And I'm not getting at anybody because I am as tempted by toys as the next man or woman. Really, we've got a choice. We've got a choice between two visions of life, and it's still recognizing we've got that hunger, that dissatisfaction within ourselves. Where are we going to find the hunger fed? Where are we going to find ourselves satisfied? One of these visions of life sucks you in and sucks the life out of you. And that really is life as so many people live it, particularly in the Western world today. The other vision of life invites you in. It's hard to get into when the whole world is going the other way, but it gives life to the full. Jesus said quite a lot about that, didn't he? That's the choice. Not to deny the hunger, but to say, where can I be satisfied? Who or what can satisfy me? And Sabbath comes in as a key part of this. Sabbath, the word comes from the Hebrew Shabbat, which means to stop. To stop. It's a day to stop. It can also be translated to delight. So it is to stop what you're doing every day, to delight in God and in our lives in his world. The Sabbath is an entire day every week set aside to follow God's example, to stop and delight, which Scott spoke about. On the seventh day of creation, God stopped and he rested and he enjoyed the very good world that he had made. And in doing that, he set the pattern for us, because that's the way he had made us. People who need to stop, people who need rest, people who need to enjoy all the good things in the world that God has given us. So, why do we need it? Why do we need it? I think that's probably fairly clear by now. We need rest. And rest doesn't just mean a pit stop. You know what? If you ever watched Formula One or motor racing, they charge around as fast as they possibly can, obviously, because they've got to win the race. And then they go screeching into the pits, and in a few seconds they've changed the tyres and they're off again. Not like that. Not just a pit stop in the rat race of life. We need to slow everything down. If you are living at 1,000,000 miles an hour, 6 days a week, then it's going to be very difficult to slow down and stop on the seventh day. We need to slow everything down, or we won't be able to rest properly, and we won't be able to function as we should. And we probably all, Scott shared his experience of it. I find sometimes, if I've been in a meeting, especially in a meeting where I'm really taking part quite a lot, in the evening, I can't sleep after it. Now that's the way it is. You can't help it, but you've got to find a way to work around that. What I'm saying is that if you're kind of busy all the time, then you can't suddenly stop. You need to slow down to rest. So that's one reason why we need Sabbath, simply because we need to rest. Physically, mentally, we need rest. And then spiritually, we need to refocus our desires on God and away from all the things that call for our attention in the world around us. I spoke about the hunger in our hearts, the emptiness. And that is because God has made us for him. That's where the hunger comes. It's a hunger for God. We need to remind ourselves and to feed on him, and not to try and get it satisfied with other things. So when we stop for Sabbath, we are saying we trust in God, we trust in what Jesus has done for us in the cross, and not in the things that the world counts important. So, Sabbath comes at the heart of the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments give us basic principles that we have to live by relating to our relationship with God and our relationships with other people. Right at the heart of it, number 4, is the command about the Sabbath. Putting that in the context of our whole relationship with God, Exodus chapter 20 begins like this. God says, I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. Sabbath is responding to God, and it's responding to his salvation. Rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. Sabbath is a part of living free from slavery. And then he says, you must have no other God but me. So he's given us a day to get away from all the other things that threaten his place in our lives and to refocus on the true God. Then he says you mustn't have any idols. Sabbath helps to take our attention off the idols. And he says you must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. And again, Sabbath is part of that. Because if we say he is our Lord and our God, then the way we spend our days and our weeks will demonstrate that. If we say he is our Lord and God, but we don't give him any of our time, then we are misusing his name. So it's all coming into the context of the whole thing. And then comes the actual Sabbath command. And this is Exodus 20 from verses 8 to 11. God says, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them, but on the 7th day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Sabbath is a day to stop, to delight in God, to rest, not to work, not to make anybody else work. To delight in God, to delight in what he has given us. Sabbath is created to be a joy. It is not a burden, it is a gift. Exodus 16 and verse 29, God says to Moses about his people, he says, they must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. It is the Lord's gift to us. Let's appreciate it. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. And Jesus picks up on this when he says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. It's a gift to be enjoyed. And that's what Jesus did. Jesus observed the Sabbath. He enjoyed it. He spent it worshipping God among God's people. But that doesn't mean he was doing nothing. He said that Sabbath was a day to do good and not to do evil. And if you see an opportunity to do good, Jesus seeing somebody that needed healing, and the Pharisees looking and say, oh, he's going to break the Sabbath, healing that man, woman. Jesus said, here's an opportunity to do good. And if you see an opportunity to do good and don't do it, then that's just the same as doing evil. Being among God's people meant for Jesus that he was among people who needed healing. And so when he saw somebody he could heal, he could give a better life, then he did it, whatever day it was. That's what the Pharisees couldn't see. They saw the rules. They saw what you mustn't do. They didn't see the opportunities that this is what you can do to express your love for God by loving others. Sabbath is a day to refocus our attention away from ourselves and our felt needs onto God, the God who alone can supply our real needs. As came out in a couple of the songs we've sung, his strength supplying what we need where we are weak. It's a day to stop chasing the impossible dream, a day to focus on the God who alone can satisfy our desires. So, Sabbath is much more than a day off. It is a day off. It's a day to stop working, to stop wanting, to stop worrying. Yeah, I know we can't just switch off our worry function. But that's what it's for, to stop. Stop working, stop wanting, stop worrying. Just stop. Focusing on God with God's people. A day of rest, not just of rest, but a day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. In Isaiah 58, and these verses are on your What's On sheet, and if you didn't get one, you can pick it up. Isaiah 58, 13 and 14. God says, keep the Sabbath day holy. Don't pursue your own interests on that day, but enjoy the Sabbath. Enjoy the Sabbath and speak of it with delight as the Lord's holy day. Honor the Sabbath in everything you do on that day, and don't follow your own desires or talk idly. Then the Lord will be your delight, and I will give you great honor and satisfy you with the inheritance I promised to your ancestor Jacob. I, the Lord, have spoken. Delight in it, and you will find yourself delighting in God and God satisfying those deep needs that cannot be met any other way. But, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. What did Scott find when he was too busy? He burned himself out. If you're too busy for that, if you're too busy to come to a stop for a whole day every week, then you are too busy. Full stop. The answer is not, some people say, I've heard Christians saying, I wish we had another day in the week or another hour in the day. I've got so much I've got to do. Well, that's because you're trying to do too much. The answer is not another hour in the day. It's not another day in the week. That's the way to crash. The answer is to do less. The answer is to learn the use of the word no. Very useful word, that. Learn the use of the word no if too much is being demanded of you. It's a vital tip for healthy living every day, but especially for the Sabbath. So, that's why we need it. That's how we should think about it. But how do you actually do it? I'm going to give you a few tips, but then try and help you to think about it for yourselves. Some aspects of what I think is an ideal Sabbath. For myself, I'm not saying this is what I do, but I'm trying to do it, trying to work towards it. And for all of us, just think about how to apply it to your own life. And the first thing is, choose a day every week and decide what you're going to do with it. Now that may seem strange saying choose a day, when the obvious is, well, it's going to be Sunday. For most of us, for most Christians, it will be Sunday, I think. But what about if you're a pastor or a church leader and you're busy in church on a Sunday? Your day of rest can be completely gone. Well, you need another one. You need another Sabbath. And obviously in the Jewish calendar, Sabbath was our Saturday anyway. But whatever it is, choose a day. Ideally, the same day every week. But if that's not possible, whether for work reasons or other reasons, make sure you do get one day every week. And then make sure it is a full day. Sometimes my full day is not midnight to midnight, not always. The original Jewish Sabbath went from sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday. And sometimes I do it that way, and then Saturday evening, I didn't do it. I wasn't working on this last night, but sometimes I do it that way. If I've got to prepare for Sunday, I finish off my Sunday preparation on Saturday evening, but I make sure then I haven't been working on Friday evening. Okay, that makes sense? So make sure it's a full day. It may be 6 p.m. to 6 p.m., whatever it is, whatever works for you, but however it works for you, to get the full benefit of it, you need to make it a full day. And in addition to that, one full day every week, we need some, what I'm calling Sabbath time every day. Every day we need focused time with God to set us up for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And if you don't do it for a time every day, then you will struggle to do it for a day every week. And if you don't do it for a day every week, then you're going to struggle to do it for a time every day. So one full day every week. Rest and focus on God. One period of time, and I'm not telling you how long it's got to be, not setting down any rules about that, but time every day to rest and focus on God. And I think it's good to start as you mean to go on. If you're going to live the day with God, then start the day with God. We read of Jesus getting up early in the morning, going out to be on his own to pray. So don't think, oh, do I have to do that? As a kind of legalistic duty, any more than you think, oh, do I have to eat breakfast? I have to confess occasionally, very occasionally, rarely, I just don't feel like eating breakfast. But I always do. And as soon as I start, then I do. Then I want to. So don't think, do I have to do it? Because it sets you up for your whole day. It's not that God's going to be down on you if you haven't had a quiet time first thing in the morning. It's that you are going to struggle for the rest of the day. Technically, we don't have to have breakfast or what we call a quiet time at the beginning of the day. But the day will be poorer for you, harder for you if you don't. So that can be a daily Sabbath time for you. And then you can make it a longer and more focused time on the one day of Sabbath in the week. When you do that, come to God with open ears and listen. When Jesus got up to pray early in the morning, he wasn't just talking to God. It was always a two-way relationship, a conversation. And I found this in Isaiah chapter 50, verses 3 and 4, talking about the servant of God, which is Jesus, says, "The sovereign Lord has given me words of wisdom so that I know how to comfort the weary." That was Jesus. Words of wisdom to comfort the weary. Morning by morning he wakens me and opens my understanding to his will. The sovereign Lord has spoken to me, and I have listened. Jesus needed to hear his Father speaking to him. We need to hear our Father speaking to us as he leads us in to the whole day. So, for the whole day, and really especially the Sabbath, but every day this applies. But on your Sabbath day, your Sunday or Saturday or whatever day you choose, just focus. What are the sights and sounds of the world that demand our attention? Well, Sabbath is the time to take your attention right off of some of those and focus on what really matters. Start by turning off your phone. Turn off your phone. I know mine's turned on because I'm recording this. But on your Sabbath, get rid of the distractions. Turn off your phone, whatever it is that takes your attention so that you can just focus on the world that's around you and focus on God. And then be intentionally grateful for what the week has given you. What we did at the beginning of this service. Think back over the week. And at the end of each day, spend time thinking back. Thinking with gratitude of what that day has given you. Think about God's provision. If it's been a bad day, if it's been a bad week, then retune your attention to the good things and to what God has done to get you through the bad stuff. Stop thinking about what other people have got that you haven't got, and be grateful for what God has given you. All of this takes discipline. Perhaps you need to ask yourself, what are the things that stop me practicing and enjoying Sabbath? And what am I going to do about them? But remember, everything, don't say, oh, discipline, I'm not doing that. Everything worthwhile takes discipline. Doesn't mean driving yourself to do what you don't want to do. It means finding ways to do without something that may be good or that may do you harm, to make room for something that is better and that does you good. In a few minutes, I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about what you're going to do for Sabbath. But just to sum up what I've said so far, Jesus said, what's still on the screen, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. No apologies for constant repetition of those verses. Sabbath is a day to be enjoyed. Sabbath is a time to slow down and stop and be still and know that he is God. Sabbath is a time to reset the rhythm of your life. Going on to a different version from the message of these same verses, Jesus says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Don't you want that? Don't we need that? Sabbath is our time to get our lives back into the unforced rhythms of grace. Sabbath is a time to look back on the week and be thankful, and to let that gratitude feed our faith and take it into the new week. Sabbath is a time for reading and hearing God's word and letting God's Spirit show us the big picture that we're part of. Sabbath is a time to look back and to look forward at the challenges that we face and to renew our trust. And when we need to do that, yes, we need God, and yes, we need to be with God's people to help us, to encourage us. All of those are things that we need to do every day. To have the rhythm in our day where morning and then around the middle of the day and night, not just once a day, morning, noon, and night, slow down and retune yourself to God's rhythm of grace every day. But then Sabbath gives us an extended time. We need times in every day We need a day in every week, and I think we need a longer time in every year, and I haven't got time to go into this, a longer time in every year just to slow down and be with God. There's a lot in there. Now, time for you to think. You can start thinking about it now, and I'm going to pass some, or ask somebody to pass some post-its and pens around. What one thing can you do to make sure you get a proper Sabbath every week? There's not many pens. I scraped together a few pens and pencils, so if you've got one, use it. And if you've taken one, could you pass it on to the next person when you're done with it? So, Anna, do you want to do the pens, please? Thank you so much. Okay, think about this question. What one thing can you do to make sure that you get a proper Sabbath every week? Think about it, write it down on your post-it, and then stick that up somewhere in your house to remind you every day. So you'll see it every day. Make sure you do it until it becomes a habit, so you don't need the reminder. Okay? What one thing can you do to make sure you get a proper Sabbath every week? Think about it, write it down, put it up somewhere to remind you, and make it a habit.
Everyone got a piece of paper?